Hello, I'm Ro Randall. I'm a psychotherapist and I've been working on climate issues for over 15 years now. This is one of a series of short videos where I'm talking about how we cope with the climate crisis emotionally. And this one is about supporting people who are suffering from climate distress. I talked in earlier videos about how very, very upsetting it is when you really truly allow yourself to understand what's happening with the climate. And this is a time in your life where, if you've been through this, you'll recognise that it really helped when others supported you. So what was it that they did that really made a difference? I think if you're trying to help somebody who's expressing the fact that they're very distressed about climate issues, is that you need to have been on the journey yourself, or at least you need to be some steps further along the way than the person who you're trying to help. Because if you are also overwhelmed with distress and trying to support somebody else, you're very likely to find that you drag each other down in a spiral of misery and upset, agreeing with each other just how awful and hopeless everything is. And it can be very difficult to get up out of that. So recognise that if you're very upset yourself, you may not be the person best placed to help somebody else. The second thing to say is that when you're talking about an issue which is upsetting somebody, you need to be in a space which feels safe. You need to know that you're going to be free from interruption, preferably somewhere that's warm and comfortable. And that physical safety matters. It's not always possible to achieve, but if you can get to that, that's good. But what matters even more in creating a sense of safety for the person who's upset is your presence, is your acceptance, the fact that they can feel that you're not going to judge them as they stumble through trying to explain what it is that's happened to them and what they're feeling. A lot of people struggle to express what they feel. A lot of us don't quite know what it is we feel until we begin to put it into words, and we're kind of hesitant and we make mistakes. We say, no, that's not quite it. I think what I mean is... And so you need to give people time to find those words. You can make suggestions. Was it that you felt this? Or was it that you felt that? But hold back. Give somebody the space to say what they felt. One of the things which often makes people feel absolutely dreadful is when you try to reassure them. And I think parents do this a lot with adolescents and with young people in their 20s. It's a very natural thing to want to do as parents. We all want to protect our children. We don't want them to suffer. We don't want them to go through these horrible feelings. But actually, when you offer reassurance, which is not grounded in reality, then the person you're talking to ends up feeling very, very lonely. They feel abandoned. And I think the same thing happens if you try to do what we often end up doing, is we contradict the other person, say, there's no reason for you to feel like that. You don't have to feel like that. We get quite cross with them back. Again, you'll make the person feel much worse. They will feel alone. And don't try to cheer someone up who's feeling miserable, because again, it just makes people feel misunderstood. Don't contradict. Don't try to cheer people up. What helps people is your silent knowledge that there's somewhere on the other side of this. You don't necessarily need to say it, but your presence and your acceptance of their difficult feelings, accompanied by that sense that there is somewhere else to be, somewhere else that they might arrive at, which is often communicated silently, is often what helps. You need to listen with empathy. You need to listen with curiosity. It's often difficult to say exactly what it is that's upset you. Sometimes someone comes in because something specific has sort of set things off again. Someone's been abusive to them on a demonstration, for instance, or someone has just denied the reality of what they've been saying when they've been at work. Talking that out, talking about what they felt at each moment of that, always helps. And again, it's your warmth, it's your presence that will help. It's also important, I think, to recognise if you're somebody who finds this kind of listening difficult, And very often you find in families and in groups of friends that there are particular people who are really good at this, and other people who go, oh no, I can't manage that, I'm not a good listener. And so if you find that this is a difficult thing for you, identifying the person in your family, the sister, the brother, the aunt, the uncle, the grandparent, who is somebody who others can turn to, I think is very important. It's also important in the course of the conversation to know when to move away from the conversation, when to be able to bring it to a close. Don't diminish what people are feeling, but also it can matter to encourage people to, in acts of self-care, of looking after themselves at a personal level, making time to do other things which feel enjoyable, to find balance in their lives. And these things are also a very important part of supporting others in trying to manage the difficult emotions of climate change. It may be as simple as saying, why don't we go for a walk? Why don't we go and look and see whether the crocuses are out in the park? These kinds of things make people feel supported and feel better. And finally, if you feel that the person who you're with is so distressed that they're not only beyond your help, but beyond the help of anybody who you know, and you think that perhaps professional help might be needed for somebody in this sort of state, don't be afraid to look for it. But do, when you phone a counsellor or you phone a psychotherapist, ask those questions about their response to the climate emergency, their response to the climate crisis. If it's something which they understand and they have worked on themselves, if they're the other side of their own feelings about it, they'll be able to help you. But if there's somebody who says, oh, I don't know anything about that, or I don't think that's particularly an issue for me, look for somebody else. There are increasing numbers of psychotherapists who are coming on board with an understanding of what the climate crisis means to people individually and emotionally. So look for those people if you need professional help.